Hi everyone, welcome to another Fun Fold Friday video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a Mega Explosion card with a belly band on it. I'll give you some base measurements and then some of it you can design yourself for whenever you're ready to create one for yourself. So this particular one has a belly band wrap, and then when you open it up, there's some really fun DSP peeking out from inside in an explosion fashion, like that. All right, so let's get started with that today. I'm gonna set this aside for a second. Okay, for the card base itself, you're gonna want a piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 8.5, and you're gonna score that 2 1/8 inches from each side. So you're gonna take your, I'm gonna be using Blackberry Bliss. I'm gonna go ahead and put that into my paper trimmer. And we have 2 1/8 there. And turn it around, and I have 2 1/8 again there. All right, so that is our card base, and you can just set that aside until we're ready to go with it. For the part in the middle, that the designer series paper portion, let me take the belly band off. The designer series paper portion of this is 4 by 8, and you're gonna score it at 2 inches, 4 inches, and 6 inches, and then diagonally from each of the corners to where the 4-inch score mark is. So if you look at those little triangles there, or squares with triangles in them, that's what your designer series paper is gonna look like when you're all done scoring it. Okay, so I'm gonna be using a piece from Pretty Prints. It's in the annual catalog, and it's meant to coordinate with our Nature's Prints stamp set. It's actually one of 2 designer series papers that goes with that one, so that one's really kind of cool. Okay, so I have my piece that's 4 by 8. And I'm going to start horizontally across the 8-inch side. 2, 4, and 6. Now this might be a little tricky to see on camera, but what I'm going to need to do is now I'm going to take it from the corner, this corner, and I want to look for that center score line at 4 inches. And that's going to sit in the trough, the track where my I bunched up my fingers. All right, so it's gonna sit in the track where the scoring blade is gonna slide through. So you want the 4-inch part here, and you want the tip of the edge to be there. And you're gonna score like that. And then you're gonna turn it this way, and you're gonna do the same thing. So this corner to the 4-inch center mark. And depending on what DSP you're using, if it's lighter or darker one way or the other, you might wanna have the lighter side showing. Because it might be easier for you to see, or if you have a busy pattern and a not so busy side, you might want to decide that might be the way to go with the scoring part, because we can always make them fold either direction once they've been scored. All right, so we're going to go to the other end of the DSP and do the exact same thing. So corner to 4 inches and corner to 4 inches, like so. Okay. Now here's the tricky part to make the accordion for the middle. You're gonna have this piece here that's gonna stay, it's essentially, it's a square, but it's going to sit in its diamond position, if that makes sense, okay? So that is the piece that's gonna attach to the card base itself, okay? And as you can see, this is gonna naturally wanna fold this way and this way. And then there's a fold in the middle here that we need to get going as well. Okay, so those are gonna come in like that. And then it's gonna go back out to create that triangle that we have going here. And I'm gonna grab my bone folder, and I'm gonna do a little bit on those creases just to make sure that they stay nice and sharp. Okay, so now we're gonna go down here and do the same thing. So it's gonna come in, and then it's gonna come back out. And again, with my bone folder, just to get those creases a little sharper. All right, so going back to the 2 triangled position, we're gonna wanna add some tear and tape or your Seal Plus, something with a little bit stronger adhesion to it. And we're gonna run a piece along the edges of where that comes together. Okay. And then it's gonna be ready to put on the inside of our card. So let's go ahead and grab our card base. And let's burnish those score marks as well, where we had those 2 1/8 inch creases from each side. Just making sure that my card is even, making sure those edges line up, and I get a good nice crease going across. Okay, I'm gonna put a little adhesive on the back side of that diamond shape, just to let it be able to sit right about in the middle, top to bottom, left to right. Okay, now I'm gonna work one side at a time, and I'm gonna take off that piece of tear and tape, and I wanna make sure it lines up with this card edge so that when the card opens, it's gonna pull open that explosion part. Okay, so I'm just going carefully with my card edges to make sure I don't have any DSP showing. So let's go ahead and flip that around and do the other side. So again, remove your tear and tape, and you're gonna have it line up with your card edge. Okay, so now when you have it folded closed and you open it, you have that cool little explosion happening. Now I purposely did this the opposite direction of the one that I showed you before, so you can see I have both sides of my DSP. We can decide which one you want to be the inside, which one you want to be the outside. So there's the print, you know, the floral pattern like that, and then this side had kind of like a splatter pattern to it. So you can show off, if you take, remember your DSP has 2 sides, decide which one you want to be showing off when you're creating that portion. All right, there's a square in the middle now, and that's going to be a piece of neutral cardstock, 2.5 by 2.5, and then some kind of cardstock that's 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I'm going with rich razzleberry, so you can either use the same as your card base or something that coordinates. So mine's just a little bit different. And I'm going to go ahead and just simply stamp an image off to the side, and then I still have a little room to write a message, sign my name, or whatever it is going to be. I want this to appear a little bit lighter as well, so I'm going to stamp off once and then just lightly press my image into there. Close up my ink pad before I stick my fingers in it. All been there, done that, right? All right, a little adhesive on here, and then onto the cardstock square. If you want a little bit less of a border, just go ahead and knock off 1/8 of an inch and take it down to, let's see, that would be, it's at 3/4, so it's 5/8 instead of 6/8, which is what that's at right now. Okay, and then that's gonna fit in that square, again, sitting on a diamond side. So you decide where you wanna have those flower ports or whatever you stamped. Can also just go across up and down this direction. So just remember you're working with a diamond shape when you're ready to prepare the inside portion. Okay, let's work on the outside. Now, if you wanted to, before we had put anything in the middle here, you could add panels of designer series paper to this. You could stamp it tone on tone if you like, or you can just leave it plain cardstock, which is what mine is here. But a little bit, I'll show you kind of what that might look like. Even though mine's assembled, I think you'll get the idea. What if I went ahead and added some of these guys here? Just tone on tone. Blackberry Bliss on Blackberry Bliss. That's not really easy to say 5 times fast. But there we go. And I'm going to stamp that off a little bit because I'm going to want to put it back into my rich razzleberry later, which is a little bit of a lighter color. Okay, so I have those images tone on tone just to give it a little depth. If you wanted to do some more DSP, remember that's a 2 1/8 inch width, so a 2-inch width of DSP would work really well there. Okay, so for your belly band, you're going to take a piece of designer series paper that's 3 inches wide by 9.5. Basically, the 9.5 is the important part. That's the length to get it around. If you want to use a thinner piece or a wider piece, the 3 is an optional number. And the pieces I'm using here are 2 by 3.5 and 2 1/4 by 3 3/4, just because that's what fits the stamps I picked out. So you could make yours obviously smaller, taller, shorter, wider, different, die cut, whatever you need to do to decorate for the front of your belly band. So don't think you have to stick to exactly what I showed you. I'm just giving you an example based on the items I'm using. So I'm going to take a phrase from that Nature's Prints and put it right about in the middle. It says best wishes and happy thoughts. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that fauna type image again. It's kind of like wheat stalks, but some of them are flowers. So I'm never exactly sure what it is. I'm not good with the floral and fauna type in identifying what exactly they are. But I'm gonna go ahead and just add a couple of those. Now that's my rich Razzleberry, but I did stamp it off a little bit, so it's a little bit lighter. And it kind of shows off my best wishes and happy thoughts. Gonna go ahead and add some adhesive to that and put it on the piece of cardstock that is just a little bit larger. So again, don't worry about the dimensions of this piece here. Base it on what you're using based on your stamp size, etc. And then adjust your designer series paper accordingly. So I kept this about an inch narrower than my designer series paper. Okay, so remember the 9.5 is about, there's the more important measurement here. You can change up the width of that however you like. And if you want to use designer series, a regular cardstock, as opposed to the designer series paper, of course you can do that. So I'm just going to add some tear and tape to one side. Now to do a belly band, I like to just do a very gentle fold over. So I'm just going to take lightly here. So I'm not going to push down really hard. I'm just going to give it a gentle bend. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove my tear and tape and give that again a gentle bend, and make sure your edges line up and that you meet about in the middle, because you're going to be able to cover most of this with your focal point image. All right, so this should be able to slide up and down fairly easily, because like I said, you don't want to give it a hard crease. You want to give that just a gentle bend. And I'm going to go ahead and add some really good adhesive to this side as well, because that's going to be sitting on a kind of a curved piece. So we want to make sure that that sticks down really, really well. You could also, again, use your tear and tape here if you like. Okay, so there is my best wishes and happy thoughts with my add-on. Okay, bring that up a little bit. So like I said, you could add more to this. You could leave it plain like my first one was. And then remember too, when you're doing your inside, whatever you would like to have for your paper showing, make sure you've got that set and assembled the right direction. Okay, so that, everyone, is how you can do a Mega Explosion card using designer series paper. Designer series paper does work best for that because it's thinner. It's going to be easier to work with, and it will be less bulky, and therefore won't take up as much space inside as well. All right, so there you go, everyone. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again on another Funful video. Take care.